ABC 10 News at 11 starts now.
Welcome. We will continue to monitor what President-elect Biden is saying and let you know in later editions. Meanwhile, what a difference a day makes. 24 hours ago, we saw the protests outside the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. turn into a siege on that building. Rioters forcing their way in what would become a deadly day. I want to thank you again for joining us. I'm Virginia Cha. This morning, Washington, the country, and the world still trying to deal with what happened. We will get to all of that in a moment, but first, a look at where things stand right now. So law enforcement says 4 people died during the turmoil yesterday. One of them, a woman from San Diego, was shot. We're going to have more details about her in just a moment. Police say the 3 other people died from medical emergencies. Officers arrested at least 80 people, including 5 with illegal guns, they say. The vast majority arrested for curfew violations. In an internal memo, police say they recovered 2 pipe bombs, one each outside of the Republican and Democratic National Committee offices. At least 14 police officers were injured yesterday, one seriously. This morning, a fence is being erected around the Capitol building. This video taken by Scripps national political editor Joe St. George. You can see crews putting up a fence that's about 7 feet tall to try to prevent further incidents. We are also learning more about the local woman who died after being shot during the riot in Washington, D.C. ABC 10 News reporter Marie Cornell shares what family and friends are now saying.
Family and friends of Ashley Babbitt say she had a very strong personality, but she also had a big heart, and she was very proud to serve her country.
I don't think she hated a soul.
That's Charlie Breckenridge, who served in the Air Force with Ashley Babbitt in 2011. He says he's still struggling to understand why his friend is no longer alive. Police say Babbitt was shot as rioters tried to break through a barricaded door inside the Capitol. She was taken to the hospital but died shortly after.
She was super smart, so I'm still trying to process, like, why was she there? Like, why was she in that position?
The Air Force confirms Babbitt served 12 years with Air Force Reserves and Air National Guard. Babbitt's social media shows she traveled to D.C. on Tuesday to take part in Wednesday's protests. Her posts also show she was a vocal supporter of President Trump on social media. Babbitt, who grew up in Lakeside, lived in Ocean Beach with her husband. Prior to that, she was married for 14 years to Timothy McKenty. ABC 10 News reached out to him, and he sent this statement describing Babbitt, saying in part, she had a personality that you either loved or hated. She wasn't apologetic about it. She was proud of it, just like she was proud of her country and proud to be American. Adding, she saw firsthand through her multiple deployments overseas how others are treated and was grateful to have the freedoms we have in America. Marie Cornell, ABC 10 News.
The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Joseph R. Biden, Jr. of the state of Delaware has received 306 votes. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 232 votes.
The lawmakers said they would get back to work after all the chaos, and that's exactly what they did. Members of Congress certifying the Electoral College win for President-elect Joe Biden. Lawmakers also took the opportunity to say they would never back down from the work they have been elected to do.
We will not be kept out of this chamber by thugs, mobs, or threats. We will not bow to lawlessness or intimidation.
Lawmakers finished their work just after 3:30 this morning Eastern Time. Now, overnight, President Trump issued another response to the day's events and looked ahead to the days to come. His team releasing this statement saying in part, quote, even though I totally disagree with the outcome of the election and the facts bear me out, nevertheless, there will be an orderly transition on January 20th. That statement coming in the wake of that violent day yesterday on Capitol Hill. That started with the president telling his supporters this before urging them to march to the Capitol building.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft.
The president's statement overnight on the heels of others throughout the day, at one point calling for peace and eventually asking rioters to leave the Capitol, all while repeating unsubstantiated claims about widespread voter fraud. That coming after numerous failed court challenges and state voting audits, some carried out by Republicans. Overnight, one longtime supporter of the president breaking ranks.
I hate it being this way. Oh my God, I hate it. From my point of view, he's been a consequential president. But today, first thing you'll see. All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. I've tried to be helpful.
Senator Lindsey Graham is not one of the GOP senators who had been planning to object to the Electoral College results. After the rioting, several lawmakers who were planning to object reversed course, but still more than 140 lawmakers did object. Utah Senator Mitt Romney, like Graham, had been pushing back against those plans to make objections. In the wake of the violence, in a speech on the Senate floor, Romney blamed people who have been working to delegitimize the election.
The best way we can show respect for the voters who are upset is by telling them the truth. The truth is that President-elect Biden won the election. President Trump lost.
Romney went on to describe the day's event as, quote, an insurrection incited by the President of the United States. Another Republican lawmaker, Illinois Representative Adam Kinzinger, echoed Romney's remarks about misinformation.
For some out there, this isn't about making a statement for the betterment of our country. It's about avoiding the pain of leveling with the people and telling them the truth.
Kinzinger is among a group of lawmakers and other leaders calling on cabinet members and the vice president to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from office. Jared Aaron's joining us now with more on what lawmakers are saying about that. Jared?
Yeah, Virginia, this has been picking up steam all morning with a lot of new details coming out. So here's the latest. Take a look at this. This is a resolution that has been filed in the House for an impeachment. And this is from a couple of representatives who say that the president's comments yesterday and also his phone call to Georgia election officials over the weekend are impeachable offenses. Meanwhile, Chuck Schumer just spoke. He's actually speaking right now. You can see talking to reporters right now. And he says that it is time to remove the president. Must not hold office one day longer. He's calling for both the 25th Amendment, which the cabinet and the vice president can do, or impeachment. And so other representatives, Ted Lieu, put out this letter that was signed by 19 members of the House Judiciary Committee, all of them Democrats, calling on the vice president to invoke the 25th Amendment. And then as for our local representatives, here's what we have. Representative Mike Levin, in an op-ed in the Union Tribune this morning, said this: the people, the domestic terrorists who sought to overthrow our democracy must be prosecuted. Their leader must be removed from office as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs released a statement calling for both the 25th Amendment and impeachment. And Representative Scott Peters early this morning talked to us. He hemmed and hawed a little bit. Just a few minutes ago, he said they should invoke the 25th Amendment, calling with some pretty forceful words, which is a bit of a contrast to what he said earlier this morning. Take a listen.
If the cabinet who sees President Trump up close really feels that he's a threat, I mean, I think that they should know, and they do know, that that's an option available to them.
All right, so it is worth noting as people talk about 25th Amendment versus impeachment, and there's only 13 days left, and what does this all mean or matter? Well, there is a provision that under impeachment, the Senate can actually set a punishment that the person removed from office can never run for office again. That's something they have, that if they really wanted to try and punish the president, it's one of the tools. Meanwhile, Sarah Jacobs, who was one of the first to call for his impeachment or removal, we're going to talk to her live right here on ABC 10 News. That's coming up in about 20 minutes. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Jared. As Congress weighs their next steps, social media platforms are taking action against the president now. Overnight, many major sites suspended his accounts. And this morning, CEO Mark Zuckerberg called Facebook's suspension indefinite. This morning, he said in part, quote, "We believe the risks of allowing the president to continue to use our service during this period are simply too great." Twitter suspended the president's account for 12 hours starting overnight, warning any further violations would result in a permanent ban. Twitter flagged several of President Trump's tweets for containing misinformation about the election and removed some, saying they violated Twitter's rules. Now, if you want to get the latest updates on this developing story, you can get those updates right to your phone. Just download the free 10 News smartphone app. And we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Breaking in the 10 News Live Center, we want to tell you about a brush fire that broke out in the last hour down in Chula Vista near Hunt Parkway and Proctor Valley Road in some of this open space. Now, Sky 10 is over it right now, and you can see the smoke coming off of the fire. Only 2 acres, and no homes are threatened right now, but you can see how close there are homes to where the flames are burning. We have seen helicopters going in around this area for drops. We've also seen crews on the ground fighting it. You can see in the middle of your screen a little bit of flames in behind the smoke. So a good thing is Megan has been talking about how cold and calm it's going to be. So that might help the firefighting efforts today, but something that we are keeping an eye on as the morning progresses. In the Live Center, Jared Aarons, ABC 10 News.
I hope they get a handle on that soon. Thank you, Jared. Now, in San Diego yesterday, local Trump supporters held demonstrations downtown and in the East County, and they were peaceful. More than 200 people demonstrated outside the county administration building yesterday. They told us they wanted to stand with the president and their party.
To support our president, and not only him, but just the platform and what we stand for, our Constitution, is just worthwhile.
A second rally took place in Santee on Mission Gorge Road and Cuyamaca Street in the later afternoon into the evening. We spoke to several people there who were aware of the chaos on Capitol Hill. They told us that is not what their party stands for.